This movie sucked. End of review. End of review. We can end it there. But hey, everyone. Welcome to Cinema Savvy. We're back. It's not Christopher Nolan month now. We're doing our review on New Mutants. This is what you guys wanted. And we're here to deliver some kind of a review. Hope you're all doing well. We're not, because we had to watch this film this weekend. There's a million and one ways that we could have spent our weekend. Apart from it's not a long film, is it? It's about, 90 minutes, 90-something minutes tops. But here we are. New Mutants, the final death throes of the Fox Studios Xmen films, and we did our retrospective on all the Xmen films that came out from Fox, and this was the last one that needed to be done. And here we are. It's finally here after 3 years of waiting since, I don't know if it was 2017, they started filming this thing. This thing's gone through countless reshoots, and then people saying that it wasn't reshot. I don't know who to believe at this point. Acquisitions, every single pitfall you can think for a movie, this film has gone through it. And we're here at the final result now. Anyway, that's my rant over. How are you doing, George?
I'm okay. You're right. It's not Nolan month, so I'm going to use this time once again to tell everyone we did a Christmas month, and thank you all again for joining. That it was superb. There's a new video on the channel that Chris done, which is the Sator Square. So do check that out. It's going to be better than our New Mutants review. I'm going to quickly address the comment. I don't normally address comments first thing. It should have been on Netflix, Carl. I did some research. The only reason this film has been released in cinemas is because it was contractually obligated to have a cinematic release before it could be put on video on demand. We saw that Disney chucked Artemis Fowl on Disney Plus at the start of lockdown, and no one watched it because it was terrible. And obviously Kenneth Branagh had his eyes on bigger things, Tenet. But this had to be released at a cinema, and we've seen it. I felt dirty. I came out of my screening. It was the furthest. There's 13 screens at my cinema. Screen number 8 is the furthest one away. You have to walk down the corridor, turn right, and then sit in like it's a naughty corner. I had to walk past screens either side playing Tenet again, and I could hear different scenes at different times. It was an incredible experience. I had to walk past the big blue IMAX door, and then I had to walk past it again later on afterwards, and I just turned like I should have. I can't wait an hour and 10 minutes. I was deflated. I really wanted to watch that film again, but we're here to talk New Mutants as much as we can. And you said, much anticipated to probably no one. Maisie Williams put a beautiful Twitter link the other day. She put, if you don't want to watch this, you definitely will now. And it was basically the scathing critics. So let's be honest, the cast don't care at this point. We don't care. The creator of the comic, guys, I'm going to bring this up so quickly to join my rant. I'm not going to read his entire thing, but the main thing is here. Is that they didn't follow the comics. Not that that's a be-all and end-all of film stuff these days, but this film is whitewashed to shit, which I'll go into a little bit, especially with everything happening now with the movements, obviously, in public domain, sort of non-film stuff, even more poor timing, and they spelt the name of the creator wrong. This guy wrote these comics, and they didn't even have the decency to double-check his surname. So if that's what you want to know, then this is it. This is the nail in the coffin, I don't know, the cremation, whatever it wants to be for the Fox X-Men, and what a pathetic way to end it off. So let's talk about very, very quickly the plot. Wow. They're locked up in an asylum and they must escape. It's not been done before. It's groundbreaking. Let's talk about the characters, shall we? The year is 2017. Stranger Things has been a humongous hit. So what do? We get the weird brother in from Stranger Things. Game of Thrones is big. Let's bring in Arya Stark because she's one of the popular ones. Oh, Split was fantastic. Let's bring in Anya Taylor-Johnson, or however it's said. And it's here's a contextual 2017 cast, and here's some 2 other people, because they didn't want to actually cast a proper Brazilian. They said they just whitewashed him with the American jock. He is Brazilian in real life, but it couldn't look anything different from the comics. He's meant to be black. He was white. He's basically the jock you see in every teen film. Boring. And then the main character, who was of the correct descent for this. However, they went against her comic appearance. Again, not a big issue for me personally. But this whole thing was dour and depressing. And then I read that it cost $80 million to make, which blew me away because this looks like a $15 million films. Mm-hmm. I've seen Netflix films that no one cares about with smaller budgets that look better than this. This film is a complete disaster. It was a waste of my Saturday afternoon. The highlight was getting a meal deal on the way to the cinema and playing the Tenet soundtrack on the way home as I drove past lorries. And that's all I can say on that. Chris, do you have any opinions on you watching it for the first time?
I mean, I don't like going into a film as like a negative Nancy, you know. But when some films you just know that you're gonna hate it, that it's gonna be boring, that, as you said, it's gonna be a waste of time. And try as you might, you try and kind of shut that voice out and go into it with an open mind. You know, we review films. We don't. Sometimes the opinion that you go into the film with can influence it, but it was so difficult to shake it with this. And you know what? It was all of those things and more. If I was going to describe this film, this is if Sucker Punch and The Breakfast Club had a child, and that child is currently going through its goth phase. That's how I would describe this film. And yeah, you're right. And I don't know who to blame for this film, because it's conflicting reports. Some say that it is who's the director of this thing? Josh Boone. This is his original idea, that the reshoots were trying to help push it back to that original vision. Then he went on record saying that no reshoots happened because the cast had aged up too much. I don't know who to believe. I honestly don't know who to believe. It feels a lot like Suicide Squad, that kind of dour, depressing ensemble superhero film where it's trying to be grounded and moody and angsty, and they're throwing everything in there. It feels like they're trying too hard to get it to that. I don't even know what this film was rated. Was it 15? Can't be more than a 15.
That was one of my biggest surprises. The BBFC logo came up, was like 15. I was like, 15? Like, is this because it kept playing horror trailers like Candyman, Saint Maud, and some others? I was like, why is it playing horror trailers for? Like, it's an X-Men film, and it's like 15. And I was like, oh, could this be scary? Could this be a horror? And it was the worst kind of film, which I'm going to use the words I spoke about yesterday. It's one of those films where it's bad, but it's boring. But it's not so bad you can have a laugh and you've got these memorable moments that could become memes and whatnot. This is just one of them films where there's not a single highlight in the entire experience, and there's a reason it comes at 90 minutes. There's a reason I didn't stay for a credit scene teasing a trilogy, which we know is never going to happen. I'm going to bring a comment by Carl because I'm in the exact same boat. Didn't feel like an X-Men film, but he's glad he has a Cineworld card and it didn't cost him anything to see it. Exactly the same here, my friend. Absolutely nothing. The only thing I'm going to delve into that actually might come across like a normal review is the tone. I spoke to you about this on chat, and I don't know if anyone else has this feeling, because it's a very obviously difficult topic at the minute, especially with the character arc. There is an underlying paedophilia tone, which feels weird to say on a review. Obviously, we know one of the characters in the film has a backstory where obviously she was a child trafficking. That's what the Slender Man smiley face villain is. They're obviously all pedos. That's not what's uncomfortable about this film. What's uncomfortable about this film is everything else. There's like a sinister undertone, whether it was the filming or the framing. It felt very pedo-y, and that's such a bizarre thing to bring up in a review. But I was watching this and I was getting uncomfortable, and it's not because it wants to be a horror film. It's not that at all. It was like shower scenes where they want to linger on the girls being topless and they want to try and show things, but they're not. And it felt very uncomfortable watching that. And it's a different kind of uncomfortable. It's not, this is the film story and character moments making me uncomfortable. There's something at play here that I don't think's right. Especially, although these actresses were like maybe like 21, 18 when they were filming this and stuff would have been legal. And it's not the fact we grew up of aristocratic age of like 13 on Game of Thrones. It's the fact they're meant to be playing like 15, 16-year-olds. They're meant to be playing young, troubled teens. I know they don't show anything, but it made this really uncomfortable to watch, and I don't know if that's the director's intention, but there was a hideous undertone underneath all this. And if you want to delve into it, if you want to look at the history of X-Men, look no further than Brett Ratner and Bryan Singer. Do a quick Google on them, guys, and that answers some other questions. Whether I'm being harsh to Josh Boone, I don't know. Whether it's me that's being uncomfortable, not anyone else. There's something underlyingly wrong. And even like the racist jokes, like I know a lot of teen films will always have that character where, oh, look, she's being racist. She's clearly the sort of the bitch of the group and she's going to be nasty. And even like, I don't want to say racist jokes like weren't funny because they weren't, but even they felt uncomfortable. And like, it wasn't even original. It just felt like, oh, you know, it'd be really edgy if I put some like anti-Native American jokes in here because that's really edgy and they would be said. And I don't normally get like, I just kind of think, and that was, it wasn't just cheap, it was just shit.
The script writing for this thing was awful, and going back to like the underlying tones that you mentioned, I think that probably was intentional for the film to add to the. But it just feels like it's in there to be edgy, to be near the mark, to be dark and everything like that, just for the sake of it. It's not inherently in the material. Like, as far as I know, like I'm a big X-Men fan, but I'm going to be honest, I don't know really any of these characters. There's one character that I do know in this thing, and one character who is not seen, but his corporation, who I'm aware of, who I actually thought they were setting up long ago, back from like the post-credit scenes of X-Men Apocalypse, that very memorable movie. And even in the post-credit scene of Logan, I think they were setting up this for a future villain. But the backstory, it seems like it's just absolutely taking a dump on the comic books, because none of these characters are inherently really like their comic counterparts. All you've got to do is just like click a hyperlink. They don't even refer to their superhero personas by name in this film. It's just their sort of like normal human names, not their superhero names. And if you click on any of the links, like, and you read the list of their powers and everything like that, they're completely different. So it's just, they're bombing off and doing their own thing from the comic books, which is fine to do sometimes. But if you're making X-Men films, like the main one, what's her name? The Russian girl in it, Anya Taylor-Joy's character, Ilyana Rasputin. She's the sister of Colossus. If you didn't read the Wikipedia entry, you'd never know that, and that's a great thing. You've had Colossus in the 2 Deadpool films. You've had him in the X-Men films. You could have threw that as a line in there to connect it up if you want. There is a line in there that does link it to the X-Men. They say like, you know the X-Men, right? And they talk about something. So the X-Men are established in this universe. I don't know. It just, none of the characters in this thing are interesting, and the writing and the tone just feels like it's being really try hard just to be something different. We saw that from the studio. Apparently, the studio saw what Warner Brothers were doing when It came out. You had that ensemble teen horror film. You had obviously the horror elements with Pennywise, and they went, let's make our film like that. Let's make exactly the same thing. And then I don't know. I'm guessing that's where all the Slender Man scenes came in and everything like that, which do feel really crowbarred in there and really weird and not really matching the tone of the rest of the film. It's just a mess. It's just a mess. But you know what? I'm not going to get angry about it. No. It's not a film to get angry about. It's, to quote like Jeremy Jahns, I'm not going to remember it by tomorrow. It's so infinitely forgettable. And for an X-Men film tied into that X-Men franchise, how do you have the keys to the kingdom at this point? I know Disney do now. They didn't at the time of this. And this is the best that you can make. I mean, if this was Boone's original vision, I mean, Jesus Christ, like, get a better vision. But I don't know who to trust. That's the problem. I don't know if this is the studio's fault, not knowing the identity of this film and trying to, like Suicide Squad, turn it into something it's not meant to be, or if this is what it was like right out of the gate. I really don't know. Either way, it sucks. and I don't like doing reviews like that where I'm just like, it sucks, don't watch it. But really, honestly, I have barely a shred of anything to say on this. There's nothing to take away at all.
The only thing I'm going to try and give as a positive, because I try and go that way, is on paper, the characters' backstories could have been interesting if they'd have been developed, but chucking them all in because they needed one scene of their tragedy to then be this horrible thing. It was generic as it could be, but on paper, these could have been interesting characters with an interesting story on screen, but the execution has gone completely the wrong way. The story's gone wrong. Everything's gone wrong, which is a shame because I kind of not wanted to leave knowing more, but as you said, I did a bit of research on and after, and I learned a little bit more that could have been more interesting. And as a final farewell, I don't even put this with the other X-Men films. It's just, when you've had these films that have looked at modern day, like in terms of like racism, classism, everything that the X-Men films did stand for and what they did approach, this just dropped all of that off just for a cheap bit. So that's my final thoughts on this contractually obligated cinematic experience. I don't even know if Disney will want it on Disney Plus. It's took them like 6 months to upload Dark Phoenix. So who knows? If this comes to a home cinema near you in like 4 months' time, don't watch it. Watch something else.
I'll agree. It felt like a streaming movie. Oh, go on, sorry.
I will add this. Carl beat me to it. He watched 10 minutes straight after, and he was the only one in that showing too. He got a private screening, as spoiler review helped. Thank you for that. It was a great video to do. Bit of backstory. I had a ticket for an IMAX showing of Tenet an hour and 15 minutes after, but I couldn't be bothered to wait. I just wanted to go home. And wow,
rethink
just
your life.
do other things. Yeah, exactly. Just not this. So that's everything I think we can all say on New Mutants. As usual, we're going to do our social media stuff. So the best way to follow us on Facebook, Cinema Savvy, Twitter at cinema_savvy. We obviously have some new things coming out. We're going to be a bit behind the scenes. We're going to be jumping on a schedule shortly. We know this week there is going to be a review at some point for Mulan, and there is going to be a review for the new Charlie Kaufman film. We don't have dates confirmed for those, but as usual, the best way to find out about all of that is following us on social media. There's a lot of things coming. Cinemas are going to be reopening a little bit more. Obviously, we've got Wonder Woman in October, so we're entering a new phase. Nolan month is over, which is a shame, as we've still kept the logo at the bottom left, so that is there for you all to have a look at home. But we'll have another update for you soon, so keep an eye on our social media channels for them. And I guess we'll see you for Mulan, another one we're both very excited for. Indeed.
The one positive thing I'll say about this film, Lockheed, the purple dragon thing, the Spyro thing, that was kind of cool to throw him into the movie. That is it. That's it. I'm going to leave you with that. So we'll see you on the next video, guys. Take care.